Hello. You don't know me yet, but you might eventually. Anyway, Emerald gave me this script to read off here at the beginning. Said they were too stressed out by something. Oh, it seems to up with some kind of joke. Holy smokes. Emerald uploading twice within a 1 year span? Next thing you're going to tell me it's going to snow in April or something. Anyway, the following deviates a little bit from my usual stuff, as if I have a usual to begin with. First of all, due to this being an analysis of an extremely niche but incredibly good game, that being promises to keep, I highly suggest you go ahead and play it before watching this video if you had any intentions to do so. While I won't be spoiling a lot, there will be spoilers regardless. Secondly, this video may cover some darker themes. I'm not sure what exactly, as I'm probably just acting like a kitten and overreacting, but you have been warned. I will also be venting a bit in this video, so if you find that weird, feel free to skip this video. Finally, if you'd like to see more things like this, or maybe even a let's play of the game, let me know in the comments. Alright, well, that's all they wrote, so I guess that's all from me for now. Enjoy the show!
The wind is howling as the snow continues to fall around me. Frick. It's so cold. At this moment, I think about how much of a fool I am for thinking I could bear this myself. How did this all happen so quickly? Just a week ago, it was sunny and warm, shorts and t-shirt weather. But now, it's dark and cold. I laugh a bit out of realization, realizing just how poetic this all was. As soon as my world gets turned upside down, so does the weather. Really is just like a snow globe. I continue to trudge through the snow, thankful that I at least had some gear. It's as if I predicted this happening. Having brought my coat and scarf when I went to hang out with a friend the previous night, assuming the snow wouldn't be higher than an inch or two. My friend lended me his boots and some socks as well, fully knowing that he couldn't talk me out of my plan to try and get home. Why am I so stubborn? Over time, I began to slow down, my legs starting to feel like they were going to fall off, figuratively speaking, of course. As soon as I lift up my leg for another step, a strong gust of wind blows me onto my back, my tail getting shoved under me, sending a sharp pain through my body. Well, stacked on top of the pain that the cold was already causing. No matter how much I fought, I couldn't get up. My body was too exhausted for me to go on any longer. I lay there, staring up at the faint little light in the sky, questioning my decision. Why am I such an idiot? My eyes began to feel heavy. Was I dying? I tried to muster up any energy I had left to fight, but there was none remaining. I, inevitably, succumbed to my exhaustion. I awoke to darkness and my body feeling strangely lighter. Am I dead? I immediately covered my mouth in surprise with my paws and feel my eyes shoot open. Nope. This certainly wasn't the afterlife. I could still feel things. My heart began to race from a strange fear that I can't quite place. I propped myself up, and what I could see was more of the same, darkness. The only light remotely was the faint glow of my necklace. I slowly got to my footpaws and confirmed that I could indeed feel everything, from the slow, anxious movements of my tail to the strange cold of the space.
Hello? Is anybody out there?
I yell into the darkness, obviously receiving no response. I hesitantly take a step forward, half expecting to fall endlessly, half expecting my footpaw to sink into the snow, only for both of my expectations to be proven wrong, instead, stepping onto solid ground. That step turned into a normally paced walk into the unknown, that fear still coursing throughout my body. Eventually, the cold became unbearable, and I shoved my paws into my shirt in search of warmth, only to find none. My body strangely cold for reasons I don't know. Regardless, I keep my paws there out of a strange sense of hope. For some reason, I feel like I'm being watched from somewhere in the darkness. Is anybody there? Hello? No response. Guess I'm just paranoid. Darkness will do that to you, I guess. Although, something feels strangely familiar about this feeling. It feels similar to what I felt when I woke up in that strange place back in September. Like then, to keep myself company, I guess I should talk about something to fill the quiet. Listen, I don't know who's listening, if someone even is for that matter, but I hope you don't mind me talking. I think about what I could talk about for an extended period, as I have no idea how long I'll be stuck here. Got it. I'll talk about Promises to Keep. For starters, Promises to Keep is a visual novel released on itch.io in 2024 by a team of 5 people and is still actively in development, with day 4 currently being worked on. You play as a male snow leopard who has been staying in his hometown for a year in search of his purpose, only to find none, and was just about to move back home before tragedy struck. A snowstorm had hit, which caused his flight home to be cancelled. Tired and frustrated, he falls asleep. While watching the snowfall, only to wake up to his power out, leaving him stranded in both the cold and without electricity. Thankfully, his neighbor, who I'll mention specifically later, comes to his rescue and invites him to stay at his place. At his place is where you meet the rest of the cast, who are all staying with him during the storm. That's all I'll mention about the game's story for now, though. On the topic of the cast, let's talk about them. The first is your aforementioned neighbor, Theodore, or as he prefers, Theo. He's an Arctic fox and the oldest of the main cast, being almost 30. He's kind, compassionate, often puts others' well-being above his own, and overall a good man. Although, he will get stern if the situation calls for it. Next up is Rofi, a dog who is the main character's childhood best friend. There's a lot I can go into about him specifically, as I know the most about him, but I don't want to spoil too much. Anyway, he's sweet, energetic, smart, but has a troubled past. I'll be mentioning more about him later. Next, to meet the pair of a blue jay named Artemis and a raptor named Oliver, or as he prefers, Ollie. Artemis is rather sarcastic, laid back, but very protective of his friends. If danger arises, he's the type of person to take charge and make sure everybody stays safe. As for Ollie, he's quiet, reserved, extremely anxious, passionate about his interests, and overall a kind soul. Finally, the last to mention is a raccoon named Hunter. Honestly, I don't know very much about him, but from what I can tell, he's nice, energetic, competitive, and always eager to do something physical. He's an athlete, after all. Now that I've given brief introductions to the main characters, time to get into the weeds about some of the other aspects of the game. How the game handles the main character is super interesting, and rather unique from what I could tell in regards to the genre of visual novels. Most visual novels have the character kind of just be a blank slate, or in other terms, a vessel for you to see the story through, with little to no personality. Promises to Keep doesn't do that. Instead, it puts you into more of the brain of the character. All the narration is genuinely how the character, not you, feel about something. All you really do is make fairly basic decisions, such as who to hang out with. Each day is also concluded by a dream that the character has involving his struggles with how his life is going. More on that later. Additionally, the main character's canon name is Leo, but of course, you're able to input a name at the beginning. Something I also find interesting is the game's tagline. A promise is the greatest, most significant thing anyone can make, in a reality where nothing is permanent. There are guarantees we make to one another, knowing that guarantees are fruitless. Their existence contradicts the fleeting, temporary nature of our universe, yet they live on in the face of this futility. Or, as I interpret it, in a world where nothing is permanent, a promise is the most significant thing you can make to someone. To me, this line mimics the same test of morality that another game, Undertale, does. That test being, even though you can erase what you've done at the drop of a hat, do you really have the heart to harm another and just move on? In the case of Undertale, it's presented through its tagline, the RPG where nobody has to die. Where Undertale tests your sense of morality through seeing if you'll bring harm physically to another, Promise to Keep test it through the means of seeing if you'll harm another psychologically. In this context, I interpret breaking a promise to be reloading or resetting a save because you didn't like or wanted to see another outcome based on a choice you made. That's also why, as of now, I've chosen to only do one route, to sort of demo the game as in its current state, seriously considering every option throughout, treating it as if I can't go back. Although, just like the before mentioned Undertale, the option to do the contrary is always on the table. In Undertale's case, it's to kill monsters. In Promise to Keep's case, it's to reload a save in the pursuit of another outcome. I've also decided to wait until the game's main story is released in full, or mostly so, to continue playing as I'm only partially through day 4 for one of the routes, with the end in sight. Speaking of, I did Rofi's route. Story stuff aside, he just immediately stole my heart. Honestly, very similar to what I'd want in a boyfriend. Anyway, Rofi's got a lot of trauma that he seems to be at least trying to work through, mainly revolving around his parents. However, since this is mostly supposed to be a general overview of the game, with few exceptions, that's all I'll say about him for now, though. Remember earlier I mentioned Leo's dream sequences? Yeah, time to talk about and break those down. As of now, there are 3, with all beyond the first being route-specific. The first features him walking through a snowy forest and eventually reaching a crossroad. The left path is well traveled down with dozens of paw prints leading to it. Meanwhile, the right path is hardly traveled with no paw prints to be seen. Leo is conflicted, but something compels him to go right. It leads to a frozen over pond that, upon looking into it, he sees a reflection. Though that reflection doesn't look back at him. He reaches out to it, causing the ice to shatter. Somehow he falls in. Now on the other side, he sees himself, but afraid. He doesn't make eye contact. He then begins to sink further and further down before waking up. The second is a flashback to Leo and Rofi's childhood that eventually gets distorted by his anxiety of how Rofi may feel about him. Finally, the third. Oh, boy, is this one heavy. It's told from Rofi's perspective. It begins with him walking through a dark space that gets progressively colder. Eventually, another voice speaks, and a figure appears. This figure looks exactly like Rofi's outline, but glows all white with distorted eyes. The voice gives him 2 gifts. The first, that Rofi is able to acknowledge, is a photo of himself and his parents smiling at college graduation. By this point in the story, one would know that this doesn't make any sense. He begins to feel a strange warmth from the photo. It provides comfort. The voice tries to take the photo from him, saying that it comes with a cost. Rofi asked what this cost is. The voice responds by using various phrases that are similar to what an authoritarian parent would say when trying to basically manipulate their child into following a predetermined path. Saying things such as, we don't want you straying off the path, and a simple journey down a paved road. Rofi feels comforted by the photo, not really wanting to let go, but he questions, regardless, where that paved road will lead. The photo then dims and loses its warmth. Voice is baffled, almost offended as to why he'd dare want anything but the success depicted in the photo. Rofi then continues to press the voice further, asking about the possibility of other avenues. The voice responds with things to try to scare Rofi out of what he's thinking. Saying things like, "There's nothing but hardship beyond these guardrails," shooting Rofi down every time he mentions another path. To me, it mimics Flowey's kill or be killed rhetoric a bit. Rofi then questions if the happiness taking the predetermined path will lead to will be his own, getting no response but the figure disappearing. Except for the picture, it brightening back up, conveying the answer to his question. That happiness will not be his own. The figure then returns and tells him that the happiness of others will be enough to get by. Rofi then begins to wonder if the love of Leo will suffice, but the voice snuffs that thought. Rofi, now uncertain, drops the photo as it dims once again, that future no longer a possibility, and his desired shaky. He does attempt to find the good in the situation, though, questioning if the undoing of that future opened the door to his own. The paved path is blocked off, where dozens of other paths still remain. The voice happily tears that delusion away from him. A mirror appears, and Rofi looks into it, the reflection not being his own. Instead, he stares into the hollow eyes of who Rofi could have been if he'd stuck to that predetermined path. The voice chimes in, mocking him and his foolish idea that he was free from this future. Rofi directly calls out that the smile his reflection wears isn't his own happiness, but a faked one, mustered up from nothing. After a back and forth, Rofi yells at the voice to leave him alone, and that he understands what he's doing. Suddenly, the mirror shatters, the dolled-up version fractured into shards of glass, still wearing its false smile. That future is now completely out of reach, not because it's no longer possible, but because it's blatantly obvious he doesn't and never wanted it. Everything goes black again, the cold returning. He beats himself up a bit, but eventually collects himself and continues forward. He remembers his second gift, but doesn't do anything with it for now. After walking for a while, Rofi sits down, freezing, wishing for any warmth or help to come. A simple table appears, and so does a wave of warm air with it. On this table are various photos of Rofi with other characters and various pride-themed objects. All possible futures, all genuinely happy memories. Like those objects before, these all give off warmth as well. Except it isn't artificial, it's all genuine, all burning together as one, serving as a metaphorical fireplace. The heat becomes so overwhelming that Rofi begins to cry, but not of fear, but instead joy. The message, "I almost had forgotten what love felt like," appears. This is Rofi's happiness. This is what he wants, to be here. Those memories and good times with all his friends, and being himself. But just like a controlling parent, the voice returns to ridicule Rofi, bringing a wave of cold air with it. And on some truly Palpatine level timing, it begins to manipulate Rofi into thinking that these moments are all just him wasting his life. Rofi stands up for himself and his future, though. Each little moment contributes to an overall better life than one big one contributing to one worth nothing. But one by one, the voice's grooming works. Each photo dims, and it begins to get cold again, despite Rofi's attempts to fight back. Eventually, the whole table goes dim, the fire being put out. The voice tries to pin this all on him, and subtly pushing him in one direction. Rofi reaches into his pocket and pulls out his second gift, a matchbox. He looks at the table and immediately realizes what it wants him to do, and he exclaims he's not going to do it. The voice, with a smile on his face, tells him that it's not telling him to do anything, but that it's the good times or he freezes, clearly telling him what to do. The voice disappears, this time for good. Murphy sits down next to the table, freezing. Time passes and he's about to die from the cold. In a moment of desperation, he gives in. He begins to believe the voice and blames himself for all of it in a negative way. So he strikes a match, looks at the photos, and sets the good possibilities ablaze. He then gets up and walks aimlessly into the darkness. The lives that could have been, good and bad, burning and left shattered behind him as he walks. He's crying and blames himself for everything. He feels like he's destroyed his life, and there's no going back. Leo then wakes up from his nightmare, to the realization that he had been crying in his sleep. So, what does it all mean? For this analysis, I'll just cover the first and third, as the second could be part of its own discussion at a later date. To start with the first, I believe the fork in the road to be representative of Leo's own journey. Some additional details about the two paths also help further elaborate on his decision to go down the path he does. The left is described as in rough shape, with some added details from the third dream, possibly representative of how Leo has seen people who follow the straight and narrow path to turn out. Wrecks that look nice, but wrecks nonetheless. Meanwhile, the purity of the right is indicative of how he views people who make their own way, overall better, while potentially lonelier. So, when given the choice himself, he subconsciously goes with the right path because it is his own. It wasn't predetermined for him, and he knows fully well that it would be borderline impossible to go back on. Now, this gets a bit into theory territory, but I think something happened that secured him into this path, representative of him falling into the pond suddenly. The reflection staring through him could be representative of a sort of portal, seeing a version of him that he'll become if he chooses to commit, and him falling in is him doing so, in contrast to later where it shows his destiny. To get a little more theoretical about something I'll elaborate on later when I get to the third dream, and something I could speak to from personal experience about, I believe the thing that secured him down this path was his discovery of being queer, in combination with his own family issues. Speaking of the third dream, it's time to discuss it. For starters, while we see it through the eyes of Rofi and his experiences, I believe it's really the protagonist having this dream. We just see it as Rofi. The voice is likely indicative of his own really large amount of self-hatred. The graduation photo and mirror are the voice trying to convince him that he still can course correct to become the person in the photo or reflection, until he, obviously, turns his back on it. Now, I don't think these thoughts came from nowhere. Perhaps they started as some insecurity he had before, but was worsened by his family, either because of what they may say when they find out, or because they already know and have already confronted him about it. In an earlier scripted interaction with Rofi, Leo makes an attempt to come out to him before being interrupted by Theo. Leo doesn't try again. Given several factors, and how this line was delivered, he seems hesitant and quite nervous, which makes sense for something of this nature. Coming out to someone, let alone a friend you haven't seen or talked to in years, is scary. But it's in such a way that seems more. As if his self-hatred often attacks this part of him, to the point that he's scared to even talk about it. To speak a little from personal experience, I have my own voice in my head that is a manifestation of my self-hatred. They weren't much of a problem until I discovered that I liked boys, which is when he began to ridicule me for numerous reasons, mostly centering around the anxiety, and quite frankly fear, of what may happen if my family and friends found out. Were they going to disown me? Call me a degenerate and kick me out? Flat out hurt me? I was and still am afraid of what some who don't know may think. So, combined with the detail that Leo's voice refers to itself as we occasionally, and using some terminology an authoritarian parent would use, makes me believe that his self-hatred often attacks his insecurity, as it knows it's where he's most vulnerable. It's not too late to become who you're destined to be, or as it says directly, as long as you stay on the path, you'll arrive where you're supposed to be. Once it realizes that Leo won't be swayed so easily, it goes to his weak spot. Leo's self-hatred has attacked him so badly because of this one part of himself that it's likely worsened his social anxiety so much that it's led him to become a hermit. Yet again, something I can relate with. I believe the third dream is his self-hatred taking this perfect opportunity where he's most vulnerable to manipulate him by attacking an insecurity of his sparked by someone who has emotionally or physically harmed him for it in the past. Which, as we see, unfortunately works. After this, he's left basically broken, hurting immensely inside. As I said, when he wakes up from it, it is very obvious that he'd been crying in his sleep. His reaction to seeing Rofi, his best friend, is one of fear. A fear that was now amplified due to his dream. Not a fear of Rofi necessarily, but because Leo now blames himself even more for past events between them. He's now in a kind of high alert state where he's extremely anxious about every point of his life. One of my biggest hopes with where this game's story goes is more than just romance, but also finding belonging and comfort with oneself. I don't know what the other routes cover necessarily as of now, but I hope at least Rofi is able to help him through his struggles with himself. Just like Leo did for him. I suddenly bump into an invisible wall, and a cold gust of wind blows, my fur standing up, as I place my paw on my forehead and stumble back. Another voice speaks, and a chill runs down my spine, as it was my own voice coming from another being. Greetings. I've been watching you for quite some time. You look cold. I look up and see the figure in front of me, a figure that looks almost exactly like me, but only my outline. Who are you? That doesn't matter. I know who you're supposed to be, and that's all that does. Besides, I have some things for you. What? Before I'm able to properly react, I feel a sudden weight in my pocket. But as I go to reach for it, something appears miraculously in my other paw. A picture frame. Something isn't right about it, though. Is that... No response. I continue to analyze the photo. I can't make sense of it. I'm wearing a suit and we're in the Oval Office? Am I the president? These and so many more questions dance in my head, but all fade as soon as I have them. My mind more focused on the warmth the photo gives off. I subconsciously pull the photo close to my chest, my grip tightening on it, trying to get as much heat as possible from it. After a moment, the figure makes an attempt to pull it away, but I fight to try and keep hold of it. I look at it as it laughs at me.
Oh, this doesn't come for free, sweetheart. You should know this by now. Nothing ever does. What is this? That's you. Well, what you could be. How do I get here then?
The figure's smile grows for a moment.
I'm glad you asked. All it takes is a little course correction. Return the reins to society and watch as your destiny unfolds from the backseat. This train moving forward on a consistent track. Don't want to derail your life again, don't we?
I make an attempt to tune out the voice and its metaphors. My stars, do I really speak like that? My eyes and focus are drawn back down to the picture. Its faint warmth is still emanating throughout my body. I mumble a response in an attempt to seem engaged.
Sure, whatever you say.
The cold that had been persistent for what felt like hours or even days gradually goes away. I stare at the photo for what feels like a lifetime, it providing a strange comfort. Just me and this potential future in this endless void. One thought grows louder and louder though. One that no matter how hard I try, I just can't shake.
What's the end result of this anyway?
Somehow, almost as if its saturation setting got turned down all the way, the photo loses its color, its warmth going with it. I look up at the figure to see its smile dropped.
If I course correct, what will the result be?
The figure scoffs, and its smile returns.
No sense in worrying about that. Trust the universe and your destiny will be fulfilled. What is my destiny? I get no say in it, do I?
Its smile drops once more.
You can't rewrite what's already been written for you. If you can't change what's already happened, then what makes you think you can change what's yet to happen? But what's stopping me from picking up a pen and writing my own page? Nothing technically, but you would be guaranteeing the derailing of this train. Then, is this truly my story if someone else writes it for me?
The figure closes its eyes and seems to compose itself, its smile returning.
Why, of course it is. It's just been drafted and revised to the point of perfection before it was assigned to you. What if I wanted to write it myself? Oh, sweetie, that's not how this works. No one chooses who they are in this world. If you decided to try and rewrite fate, you'd be throwing away perfection. You'd be throwing away a future of happiness. My happiness, right?
The figure vanished.
Will it be my happiness?
I yell into the void, louder and sterner.
If it isn't mine, then whose is it?
I feel the photo in my paw regain its warmth. Just as I expected. I feel the figure's cold gust of wind reappear.
Doesn't matter whose it is. It'll trigger down to you in time. What about after?
that doesn't matter either. You don't need to know anyway. All you need to know is that it'll be enough. What do we even mean by that? I begin to think, fully knowing that it probably already knows my every thought. But I can't help but think. Maybe, just maybe, if I just keep trying, and if I keep them close to me, that love. What's that? Will it suffice? The figure laughs hysterically, a deep feeling of dread rushing through me. I guess it wouldn't. I don't know why, but I now feel even more uncertain about my future. I don't think I can keep doing this. The photo dims and its warmth falters once again. Then, suddenly, it loses its warmth entirely. Startled, I drop it, not strong enough to see that future through. I lose balance a bit, the sound of glass shattering causing me to stumble and nearly fall backwards. Oh, stars, that's not what I wanted to do. I'm sorry. Why'd I say that? Am I lying to myself? Who am I even apologizing to in the first place? Wait. If that future's now broken, does that mean I'm free to make my own now? What? No, of course not. You really are an idiot. Just look at yourself. I blink, and somehow a mirror is now in front of me. My own reflection staring back at me. Is what I would say if it was really my own. As I look into their eyes, I can't help but feel bad for them. They look hollow on the inside, broken but not saying anything. I take a step back away from the mirror, resisting the urge to place my paw on it. And, as if it was blocking for a performance, ear-piercing laughter fills the space. You're such a fool. Don't you remember what I said? No one gets to choose who they are in this world. You just merely took off some of the branches to this tree of your destiny. There's still dozens of others. This is inevitable, Emerald. No matter how much you run, you can't outrun fate. Not without becoming a failure. Or should I say, not without becoming a degenerate. It cackles like a hyena. Everyone will abandon you. Your relationships will mean nothing if you don't prove that you are worthy of them. I grab hold of my ears and shut my eyes tightly, not wanting to deal with this torment anymore. Stop it. Don't you see that smile on his face? Stop it. He's happy, Emerald. Just as you're bound to be. I open my eyes angrily, staring back into the soulless eyes of my reflection. Is their happiness genuinely their own, or is it merely an act? Never mind. I don't want it either way. Are you sure about that? I'm sure. For some reason, my voice comes out uncertain and nervous, betraying me. And you're absolutely certain that you're comfortable with all the pain you'll feel. I'll make it through. Alright then. It's awfully cold outside. And we both know just how great you do in the cold. So, once you get thrown out in it, you know you won't last long. I'll keep going no matter what it takes. I'll find a way. There's no going back from this. Having had enough, I raise my own voice.
And I wouldn't have it any other way.
You've always been an optimist. You're an arrogant fool, too.
Leave me the heck alone! Get the...
The mirror shatters, glass falling all over the ground. My reflection burned into them. I take a step back, hoping none have punctured my footballs. Before I am able to process what happened, the light that illuminated the mirror fades. I'm thrown back into the darkness, the last bits of warm air taking their final breaths as the cold settles back in. It is now I realize just how hard I'm breathing. Was this fear? Exhaustion? Pain? I couldn't tell. It very well could be all of them. Hello? No response. Shocker. Is anybody out there? The void responds back with ellipses. That's what it's always said before when I cried for help. Don't know why I thought that change. I truly begin to feel the cold set in once more as the last bit of heat leaves me. I look down at my barely comprehensible reflection in a shard of glass. Who am I kidding? This is all my fault. I'm such an idiot. I didn't think this through fully. I begin to cry, tears beginning to dampen my fur. A gust of cold wind wakes me up from my trance. I collect myself, wipe the tears from my eyes, and begin to walk aimlessly through the darkness once more. As I walk, I take a deep breath and make another call into the void. I get it now. You'll show up to stab me, but watch from the sidelines as I bleed out. No response. I expected as much. I think about the shattered glass in the picture frame. It was right. There really is no going back from here. The train has derailed. No way back. Suddenly, after all that chaos, I remember the other gift. I reach into my pocket and pull out a Zippo lighter. Looks old. I don't know how much fuel there is. I flick it open and light it. It really doesn't provide much warmth, so I turn it off and put it away. I subconsciously put my paws back into my shirt, feeling no warmer. The dreadful thought of death pops into my head. If I froze to death, what are the odds someone would find me? What are the odds people would even realize I'm gone? Then, I remember what all went down in March and how it affected everyone. The crying, wailing, mourning, all of it. That grief still weighing heavy on my heart. But I lift my head up, push that thought out, and keep moving forward. I continue to wander through the seemingly endless darkness. Eventually, my legs are nearly about to give out, so I sit down, alone with my thoughts. This doesn't happen often. Last time I recall, it was because I was waiting on a ride home. Anyway, I kind of curl up into a ball, tucking my legs in and pulling my head into my lap. It's so cold. If I could only find anything or anyone that would take this pain away. But besides the lighter, I know of nothing. So I just sit there in silence. As if the void actually heard me, though. A heat seems to hit me. I untuck my head and look around skeptically. No voice, just me in the darkness. Although, something catches my eye. A simple desk, not too different in appearance to my own, adorned with various objects. They aren't just things, though. They're all things that make me who I am. Photos or other memorabilia. The closer I get to it, the warmer I get. All of its small sparks together, as one creating a harmony of heat, resulting in a bonfire's worth. All of it is critical. If even one thing wasn't there, I'd be a different person. I do what feels natural and bask in the heat, metaphorically speaking. Flipping through photos and looking at every object, analyzing every last detail. I prop myself up against the table, resting my head on it, treating it as an altar dedicated not to me, but to what has made me. Eventually, my body's completely warm again. I begin to cry from how hot it gets, but no matter, I feel safe and comfortable here. Like a child, finally finding their home. I had almost forgotten what love felt like. I guess. Then, like clockwork, a cold front came in right at this comforting moment. Pathetic. I can't believe this is what you've turned into. Fearfully, I shift a few things in a manner where I'm protecting them. Well, it feels like I am. I thought you'd leave me alone like I told you to. I couldn't just sit back and watch as you reduced your future to ash. Wasting your life like this. Focused on frequent momentary hits of happiness that ultimately mean nothing. Overextended hits later in life that mean something. Don't even start. Well, it's sad, really, seeing just how far you've strayed. But it isn't too late. I tune it out for a moment and look back at the table. They all may be small, but all together, they burn brighter than what the path you would have led me to ever could. Yet, in the long term, they're still basically meaningless. All simple little embers that'll fizzle out in time. Take a closer look at that one, for example. It points at one of the framed photos. I pick it up and really look at it. This is... I'm flooded with dozens of memories of dozens of things. But regardless of how much time's passed, looking at this still hurts from guilt. How did that one turn out for you, Emerald? I try to open my mouth, but no sound comes out. Think that his love was worth nearly as much as what theirs could have been? Because looking at how things transpired, I'd say it wasn't. A familiar sense of dread looms over me as I watch the photo lose its color. A picture of that important moment in my recent history losing its warmth. I look at everything else on the table. But that's not the only thing. You may try and invalidate one piece of the puzzle, but you won't completely destroy it. Oh, what makes you think any of them are worth anything? They can just as easily be forgotten and pushed aside. I quickly reach out to grab another frame, but it goes cold before I even have a chance. Stop. I try to grab another, but once again, I am not fast enough. One by one, each member of this harmony fizzles out. Stop. Please stop! Like dominoes, everything on the altar begins to dim and go cold. Until even the table was now grayscale. All the heat that had been there before, gone just as quickly as it came. The figure appears again, clearly mocking me, with a sly smile on its face. I didn't do anything. This is all your fault. You did all of this yourself. So you're just going to leave me stranded here in the cold like this? Up. Don't blame me. Remember, this was all your decision. And since you're so hell-bent on writing your own destiny, you're on your own. You don't have to freeze here. Luckily, you've got everything you need as well. I remember the lighter and pull it out of my pocket. Then I look at the table, realizing what it's telling me to do. You're evil. I'm not going to force you to do anything. But remember, it's you or them. Do what you must and begin your journey of correcting your life. Or stay and freeze, keeping down the path you're going. The choice is yours, Emerald. Ball's in your court. I look over to the table, clenching the lighter in my paw. I'm not going to do it. I turn back around. The figure is gone. So I sit down, leaning against the table. I decide to ignite the lighter, to at least get a little heat. Well, guess I'm alone again. Back literally to what's made me. Nothing else to do but talk, I guess. Honestly, my life's been real hard lately. Sure, I'm just a teenager in high school, so my problems aren't crazy. Mostly first world things, emotions and all. But also having the pain of losing someone, and the prospect and issues with my relationships stacked on top of all of it, makes things much, much harder. It feels like ever since about 2024, I've been living in some kind of dream. Nothing really feels real anymore. I basically all but forgotten what it felt like to love and be loved. But in this difficult time, this game found me and reminded me what happiness felt like. While it's still difficult for me to feel loved, I can at least say that Promises to Keep genuinely reminded me how to love someone again. Even if they are just pixels on a screen. Because to me, they are so much more than that. Characters and stories are as much of people as the ones I see every day. We merely just witness a point in their lives. Think about how many people you meet for just a moment in your life. Does their story stop once you stop seeing them? No. So why is it any different once the credits roll? While the game served as a glass for me to get a glimpse of the world in which I desire to live in, it also served as a wake-up call. I often find myself daydreaming and overall fantasizing about living in a world almost, if not exactly, like the one featured in the game. But often forget that I'd still be facing some of the issues that I do here. I always get caught up in the fact my body dysmorphia would be solved by default, but neglect to remember my other insecurities and issues wouldn't just go away. In fact, I think another reason this game has left such an impression on me is because I see so much of myself in Leo. To the point that there were so many times I genuinely forget I wasn't him, both on the surface and deeper levels. So many of the ways he'd react to stuff is exactly how I would, even without player input. And, as clearly seen, I've got my own voice too. And just like Leo's, mine berates me for who I am too, in comparison to who I could have been. In this world, I'm a gay, asexual, non-binary. I feel as if I'm kind of behind in everything. Don't quite fit in anywhere, either. Just kind of gravitate towards the people who I've known for years who are also similar in some aspects. Those whom I feel care about me. The only true relationship I had was with essentially a groomer, and I felt loved then. But haven't had much luck finding anyone in the nearly 3 years since. I don't know if that's because I just haven't found the right person for me yet, or because I've struggled with feeling loved, as stated. I'd imagine it's partially both on top of other things. I just can't help but see all my friends happy with their partners or other people and feel a little sad. Not because they are spending time with other people, I'm actually extremely happy about that, but because I wonder why I can't be like that too. Moments like that are when my voice chimes in and makes me feel worse, attacking the parts of me I'm happiest about, pushing me further into my hobbit hole. No one will ever love you. You'll never be anything. Might as well just do everybody a favor. But unlike Leo, I haven't found someone quite like Rofi. Someone I know I can go to who will always make me feel better. Not that I don't have people who do similar, but I guess what I mean is somebody who can help me feel real, I guess. Not necessarily take my problems away, but could help make them hurt less. Something that Theo said really resonates with me, and serves as one of the quotes that gives me hope right now. You know the saying, you reap what you sow? Well, it's true. As long as there are caring, compassionate people in this world, they will find each other and help each other thrive. I've just got to take life one step at a time. We all do. Make attempts to work through my social issues. Then, maybe someday, I'll make it through the dark.